industry entrepreneur. Could you explain for those who do not know you or not familiar with what you do, exactly what do you do in the industry?
Right, yeah, no, thanks, Laura, for having me, and thanks, everybody, for being here. And thank you to Melissa, MusicTT, thanks to Leslie at Film TT for having me here. I'll try and just make it as simple as possible. What I do, my network, my collective, we simply just connect the dots. We are, some people call me a super agent because I represent talent at the highest level. Some people want to coin it, I'm a producer across film, TV, music, sports, where we rep talent as well. But I think, rather than give you a long story, what we try to do, we're simply the conduit to get talent, brands, and platforms to where they need to get to. And accessibility is key for us, and that's really what myself, my network, and my colleagues try to do.
Nice. We were discussing earlier that there seems to be a trend now where a lot of artists, they're not really interested in a record, the traditional record deal, because they see it as a way of being indebted to a record company, and people want to make money. They want to make money faster. Explain what you do in terms of that, connecting artists to making that money.
Right, I mean, it's it just depends at what level. If we're talking about managing young artists, it's of course giving them the 360 tools to be able to navigate the industry. So whether that's in terms of A&R, in terms of knowledge, in terms of understanding. I mean, we're moving into a world now where tech is extremely important. So, artists no longer want to be signed to like a 360 label deal because it never is 360. You're giving a lot of your rights away. So, then we kind of morphed into providing label services for talent, marketing, studio sessions and those kind of things. I think with the advent of AI, the industry is evolving faster than we would like. And, what we try to do is to enable young talent to be at the cusp and to be ready to be able to navigate some of those things. We do manage some musicians, but really and truly we provide accessibility, like I say. So marketing opportunities, opportunity to perform at live shows. We create live events globally, that's concerts and the like. So our focus is on the Black diaspora. I'm Nigerian, I live in London. And my collective, my business partner, Solomon, is here as well. He's Nigerian, he lives in London. We've worked globally and we just realized that there's an opportunity to connect to our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. We're very similar as Africans and Caribbean. We share the same passion for what we do, and I just think there's a connectivity between Caribbean music, African music. With the advent of Afrobeat right now is enjoying a well-deserved rise, I guess, and respectability in the same way that dancehall did in the 90s. And it's just for us to see, we're seeing a pattern, we're seeing opportunities. Everywhere I've been in Trinidad, I hear Afrobeats, but I'd also like to go home to Nigeria and hear soca and calypso and dancehall and all that kind of stuff.
So does that mean that we're going to be seeing you more active in Trinidad and the Caribbean? You're going to be doing more work with artists here, helping in the industry?
Yeah, we hope to. I think one of the things I noticed on my first trip, and also talking to Melissa and the team at MusicTT and talking to the Film TT team and Leslie, was just the opportunity to, let me backtrack a little bit. We're not coming here to try and teach anybody to suck eggs, as they say. There are people who've done these things before we came here. There are people who are doing it now. There are people who are very successful at it. Our core focus is to be part of that process, is to be a conduit, to enable an environment, to build an industry. Afrobeat is successful not because it's new. People forget Wizkid has been around for 16 years or more. David as well, Burna Boy, over 12 years. But before that, you had Um, people like King Sunny Ade, who had, been nominated for Grammys, Fela Kuti, Femi Kuti. So those guys kind of created a pathway in the same has happened here. So we are just really excited and interested to just help that process here, help build an industry, give talent the tools to be able to navigate and to be able to have the conversations, to be able to enter rooms and not feel like they shouldn't be there, to enable them to see that access is easier than people think. Talent sometimes, and I'll always go back to Wizkid says he just wants to make music. He's not really that interested in everything else around it. He just wants to be in the studio. So we kind of understand talent in that sense. Creatives want to create. They don't want to do the business deals. They don't want to sit and negotiate a contract. They don't want to do all those things. So I think we see an opportunity in the Caribbean to be able to facilitate some of that stuff, and we'll be hopefully coming here and doing more work with MusicTT and FilmTT, and also, then morph into producing potentially live events and just being part of that process.
Nice. Could you give us an example of some of the work you would have done, some of the opportunities you would have created for artists, connecting them with brands, creating platforms for them?
Wow. How long is a piece of string? I have done deals for, you name it, in Afrobeats. I've done deals for Burna, David, Wizkid, probably Wizkid's Ciroc deal. I did that deal. I just did a deal for Yemi Alade. We were probably one of the first. In 2012, I was a VP at Spinlet in Nigeria. We launched Africa's first streaming service, where we worked with all the record labels over there. Maven, EME, Chocolate City. We were cutting checks and producing music videos. In that sense, my partners in crime, Saul, has worked with Daria Alade, Lauryn Hill, and also Femi in the UK has worked with music talent across his movies. So we've kind of been in this, we've seen the game evolve. I've seen I went to Nigeria in 2011 to produce, I was consulting producer on Fela on Broadway, the musical, when it went to Nigeria. I hadn't been to Nigeria for a while, but at that time, we airlifted a Broadway production and took it to Lagos. I was suddenly in charge of 150 talent, of which 50 were young stage talent who had never been out of the US. So that's a task in itself. And we were put in a show that'd been on Broadway for over a year that cost $1 million a week, and taking the entire stage, the entire production, which included 300 lights, shipped that across to Lagos over 4 weeks. And that was my first time really tapping into Nigeria in terms of the music industry. From there, I was consulting commercial director, MTV Base Africa, where I was focused on MTV Africa Music Awards. And then from there, I went on to be commercial director at Trace Africa, which is another music TV channel for Africa. And there, I worked with talent across not just Nigeria, but Francophone Africa as well.
Very impressive. And you worked with a lot of brands. You talk about Ciroc doing that deal. Was it difficult to get the brands on board with the artists to make that? Because the theme of this conference today is investing in music.
Sure. And
in the Caribbean, in Trinidad, we always have that challenge of getting brands to invest in the artists, in the music, in the culture. And especially it's quicker to do it at the artists at the top level. But there are artists who, the putting out music all the time. They're building their brand, and it may be a little bit more challenging for them.
Sure.
Was it difficult for you to get those brands on board? And what was like, the key?
Well, I think one of the things we've learned and we continue to learn is brands need to connect to culture. Right now, we are culture. Wherever you go, it's all about our history. And I'm talking about black people. Black culture reigns right now. Most brands want to connect to that. And to be able to connect to that, they're looking at what platforms they can partner with, and in that comes music. So I think at that level, it becomes, I guess, easier to have those kind of conversations. At the lower level, where there's a young street artist who's trying to decide how can he get access, I guess one of the first things is probably look at what team you have around you. I think at the lowest level, a young up-and-coming talent probably has family around him, brothers and sisters, maybe his cousins who are helping him, kind of navigate that, and within that, he can focus on his music.
Right.
I was at a radio interview the other day, and I heard back-to-back adverts of local brands using local music, using local voiceovers. With brands, the gateway to the culture is through music, through film and TV, and it's always going to be that globally. The other day, we receive, on the talent side, we receive requests to attach talent to brands at the top level. But I think at the lowest level, all I can say is for young talent to just keep creating. You live in a world where social media gives you that access much faster than it was 20, 30 years ago, where you couldn't have direct access to brands. So brands are always looking. So most brands now on the beverage side, they will have what they call a head of culture. Mm-hmm. That person's role is simply to go out looking for how they can tap into everything that you guys do. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's easy for them to find you, but I think you just got to believe in yourself and come to events like this and network as much as possible. There's no point being a talent in music, but at the same time, you are too shy to have conversations. We are where we are today because we put ourselves out there. When MusicTT said they wanted to do this event, I think I was here doing something for Film TT, and I just said to Melissa, put me down, we'll come. And that's how we've always done stuff, myself and Solomon. That's how Femi has done things. You've just got to put yourself out there. There's this idea that's always, listen, man, if you look at people at the highest level, Jay-Z, Diddy, all those guys, they sell a story on social media. I'm not going to sit here and tell you their story is the story, right? That's just one aspect of it. Your own story is going to be very different. But the one thing I will say is don't be afraid to shout and tell everybody what you do, because at some point they're going to come and they're going to connect to what you do. Brands on the beverage side are looking to connect to culture. You all heard Burna Boy design a Range Rover for Range Rover. 10 years ago, he would never imagine that they'll come to him to design a Range Rover. Even on the clothing side, it's all about Pharrell. It's just designed for Louis Vuitton. So there's opportunities, I think, is with brands and culture. Right now, that's what's happening in the industry.
So for us in the Caribbean, there's always the belief that maybe we don't have the numbers. Maybe we don't have enough people buying the music. Maybe we don't have enough, the volume of music isn't enough on streaming. Do those things matter? Are those things important for us to be able to attract those kind of investments and the kind of opportunities that we're looking for?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say you have the numbers. I think Trinidad is population of 1.1 million, I believe.
1.4.
Sorry to the 300,000. I missed out. 1.4 million people. From a brand perspective, when they're looking at data Honestly, yes, that is a small number. But that does not mean that you can't still create an industry locally first. That's, that's the first thing. I'll backtrack again. If you create an industry locally that's functional, that's accessible to young talent, that's building capacity, enabling people to perform at live shows, to attend events like this. And I think that's the greatest thing. I was saying to Femi just earlier, that I was asking, does Nigeria have a creative, division? Is there like a music Nigeria? Or no, there isn't. We're a bunch of entrepreneurs and we shout the loudest and we just go get it. But I think the good thing here is there's government platforms that's enabling the environment. The next phase is now turn that into a functional industry. And I think that's quite important. On the numbers side, yeah, the numbers are quite low. We are also still learning. I talk a lot about the connectivity. There's the CARICOM, there's all of that. For the Caribbean, I think that's where the opportunity is. The brands, the streaming platforms, they're all looking at the numbers, because data doesn't really, an artist reaching out to 100,000 is very different to an artist that can reach millions. That's what the brands kind of connect to. But I think also, don't forget, there's a huge diaspora out there that social media allows you to connect to immediately. So I think there's opportunities everywhere. It's just how do you go and access that and make it work for you.
Yes, and that collaboration with Africa and getting that market, getting into that market will definitely help us.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest opportunities that we see over the next 5 years. That's one thing I am committed to, my company is committed to, because we just think there's opportunities outside the typical. There's opportunities outside the U.S. Saul has just done a three-show tour for Rema in India. So we're looking beyond just doing stuff that's typical. And we're going to continue to build those kind of platforms, and connecting to the Caribbean means that we'll be able to take those kind of things and bring Caribbean artists on board of those things. We have plans to do similar here later on this year and connect African artists to Caribbean artists. I've had that experience once before. I did a show in New York with Patrice Roberts and Diamond Platinums and DJ Private Ryan, and that kind of gave me that there was an interest in connecting our talent. And they've all been here. Wizkid has been here, Burna has been here, with Marshall, I think. But there's more opportunity because they're mid-level talent that can also enjoy that kind of success.
Nice. Well, I'm excited about that and look forward to seeing what the collaborations will yield. So I think our time is up. So, Fela, thank you so much.
For sure.
I hope you continue to enjoy your stay, and I look forward to you coming back to Trinidad and
thanks
imparting some of your knowledge and experience with us. Thank
you. I'm here. Anybody who wants to connect and have a conversation with me, my guys, we're here. We're open. We may not be able to sign you to a deal today, but I'm sure if we keep having conversations, it may happen. You never know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.